Good afternoon. It is March 25th, 2022, and today we're just looking at a range day. So I just drew my lows off this this low from the overnight and put my highs right here. This is actually above the overnight highs, but it's just that the midline was right at the opening. So you can see if we bring it down, and I honestly, if we okay, so yeah, just just to keep it neat, I pretty much put the highs up there to so the midline looked good. So we had this sharp sell-off, but then when we bounced only slightly below the overnight lows, you kind of get a feeling that we're just in a range day. So let's take a look at these trades. So in the overnight, you have this kind of just chopping around, and then you have this leg up, and it's like a spike up and a channel down, and so you would expect to move to a new high. So we do have this leg of correction and this leg of correction, but then we get a couple legs up to a new high. These trades look good to me. So here we have this lower high, and another lower high, super bearish bar, room back to the EMA. I think you might not ride that trade out because of all that congestion, but it looks like it's making its way down to the EMA. So I like that. And then you get a second entry short off of that trend channel, confirming that trend line. Well, actually, we already had confirmation, but it's a little hard when you're going off these highs, because normally you probably have your trend channel drawn like this, and that might be accurate too. I mean, some people would probably argue this is even better because you see a touch on the midline there, but we have a break and what looks like two legs down before. So that could be it. And in which case, I still like these trades. Here you have a first failed second entry long. So then, yeah, the break, we get two legs up, and that forms a range. I don't think you want to go short here. I don't see anything. And that's another thing, is this closing price from yesterday was an important price level. I don't see anything there. Right here, I definitely like these entries. So we had this range right here, and you get a first entry, failed second entry, right off that, back into this level of this range, and then you get a higher low. I like both those entries, and look at that. Everyone else liked them too. 22, so I'd probably get like a 9-point runner off that, the way I play it. I don't like this second entry. It just sets up too far from the trend channel and the EMA, but that's a second entry long. You might take that on like a double test or something. So something to consider. This is all too far from the EMA, and right here you got a second entry long. It really looks like this is a double top, first entry, second entry. So I marked it blue, but it's probably borderline blue and green. I mean, look, you can see a bunch of longs get trapped there. All you get is a scalp out of that. Come down here, you have first entry, second entry long. It looks like a trap. It's just far from the EMA and the trend channel. So I figured this was the top of the trend line. So when we started to sell off very sharply, and we get some support here, but then it just withers out and sells off again. I just looked at that as an overshoot of this trend channel, especially with that midline holding prices. Some people probably thought like, hey, let me ride this back to the EMA on a higher low, but we're probably testing the overnight lows. You're going into that level of resistance at the closing from yesterday, and that's just the doji, and that's two dojis overlapping. So we get this overshoot, and I think this is technically a failed second entry long. You can see first entry, failed second entry, but it doesn't really look like that. This just looks like one leg down. And then you get a higher low back into the daily range. Now the key here was having enough space to scalp out, and you do have enough space. So yeah, just about. Let's see. That was, yeah, just enough space. And then you get this failure right here, and that's a look. We have on my chart, we have a overshoot of this channel, higher low, failed second entry short, right at the, like a failed breakout. I just thought that was a great entry, and it actually took a little bit, but it works out. And some people probably played this like a second entry. It doesn't set up well, and I was hoping a little bit of a smoother trend up, but we didn't get that. And then we get a leg down, probably attempting a new low, and that doesn't work. But I looked at it as just another higher low back into the daily range, so you might consider that. I don't like this higher low. I'm going to delete this range, but there was like a level of resistance up here. This is a doji, and there's not enough room back to the EMA to scalp out, so I didn't like that. You get a failure right here, but it's far from the EMA. So you might enter this one on a limit order when it ticks higher. And that's just a bunch of choppiness right there. We come off the highs and come here. This is just a bullish bar. I don't think it kind of looks like maybe it's a first failed second entry short, but it's just in a range. But then you get the second entry long. I like this because we're making higher lows, and I had a feeling like we were in a trend. It looks like we are. Then you get another, like a double test of that price level. So you might take that. That takes us higher, and that's when I guess everyone realizes, okay, we actually are going higher. And you get a first entry, second entry. It doesn't set up. This second entry doesn't set up on this chart, but on the 2500 tick chart, you get it right here. And it's a good second entry long. So first entry, second entry doesn't trigger here. Or I mean, it does. It just doesn't look good. So you get a higher low right here, but that's going into the highs. Got a second entry right here, but it's just congestive. And we get an overshoot of that channel, this upward channel. And after that overshoot, you can see we get a bounce off this midline, and what looks like it's like a hidden first second entry short. And pretty sure on the 2500 chart, it's a true first failed second entry long. So I say you take that, especially if you're watching both charts. So you can see a break. We get the overshoot, and it leads to a break of a similar proportion. And this looks like a failure, but I'm seeing now technically it's a third entry, but it looks like a failure. So you get a failed second entry short right there, and you could have rode that all the way up if you knew what you were doing till it broke out of that trend channel. And if you did that, let's call it 2075, you get an 8-point runner. So that's what I saw for today. I hope everyone has a blessed weekend. My schedule is going to be very inconsistent next week, so keep that in mind. I might not be able to upload videos and stuff like that just next week. So God bless. Have a great weekend.